Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today we are being joined in the Tier 5 US Navy destroyer, the USS Nicholas, by Colonel Chris, in this Tier 6 domination battle here on the New Dawn map. I've always liked the Nicholas, and not just because of its monstrous damage per minute with the guns, the fact that it's actually stealthier than its predecessor, the Clemson at Tier 4, or the relatively decent speed for a destroyer, 37 knots, 40 with a speed boost consumable. I mostly just like it because it's the first US Navy destroyer that actually looks like it belongs in the 20th century. Due to the simple addition of some gun shields. I got similarly excited when I got to Tier 5 in the cruiser line and finally unlocked the Omaha, which also had guns that actually came with some protection for the gun crews that were loading, handling and firing them. Because I can remember reading I can't remember the title of the book, but it was about the light cruiser actions during the Battle of Jutland in World War I, and you could so tell that the person who'd written the book wrote it shortly after the battle. And the reason you could tell was because, remember, we're talking about ships whose upper deck guns were exactly like the two rear turrets here on the Nicholas. They had no protection whatsoever, not just from shrapnel or blast. They didn't even have any protection from the wind for the upper deck gun crews serving those guns. And as a result, as soon as the shells started flying around, the carnage that was inflicted on those secondary gun crew batteries on the upper decks of those light cruisers at the Battle of Jutland was just unimaginable. They were like, and this is all in the book, there were light cruisers at that battle who, as soon as the shooting started, within a very short period of time became mostly combat ineffective. Not because their guns had been knocked out, but because the crews serving the guns had all been slaughtered from shrapnel. Something that could have easily been prevented by the simple addition of giving them gun shields, like they have at the front of the Nicholas. But nobody thought of that. And you could tell, because the only thing the writer of the book had to say about the situation was how brave and noble it was of these men to get cut down at their guns, rather than, trying to take cover. Definitely a product of its time. Well, anyway, at least the gunners on the A and B turrets on the Nicholas have got a chance of surviving more than the first 5 minutes of this battle once the shells start flying, unlike the poor suckers manning the two guns at the arse end. It sounds like Chris here is running the excellent Mermaid's Wrath voice mod for World of Warships, which replaces basically all of the commanders' voices with some extremely well acted female voice lines. I do recommend it. It's one of the better and more comprehensive of the mods available for the game. Oh, I should probably point out, Chris isn't exactly a newcomer to the game. He's regrinding the US Navy destroyer line in order to generate some research points. The enemy destroyer that he's sharing this cap circle with is also not a newcomer to the game. That's a Shinanomi. The only way to get that is by completing the Honourable Service campaign. So whoever that is, he's not a newcomer to the game either.
Start the smoke.
Although, as is fairly typical of a wargaming.net product, you can actually get the Shinanomi without having to complete the campaign or put in any kind of actual effort, because there is a black version that you can just throw your wallet at. Yeah, that was a 2-for-1 for Wargaming. They solved the problem of not being able to sell veteran players the same premium ship they'd already sold them once, because then they'd have to design completely new premium ships, because that shit costs time and money, and at least until they perfect the AI, 3D modelling artists need to be paid. Couldn't get away with just reskinning them though, could we? I mean, nobody's going to buy that, are they? Are they? Meanwhile, with the cap circle secured and the Shinanomi chased off, Chris here is evacuating the smokescreen because the radio location marker, well, he's evacuating the smokescreen because it's a Shinanomi. And if his torpedoes are ready to go, so are the Shinanomis. And as we all know, because we do know, don't we kids, smokescreens are torpedo magnets. But the radio location finder is now flipped from the Shinanomi to the other side of this island, where we can probably expect to find a Fusso, who, if we're lucky, is as unaware of there are the torpedoes, and we are lucky, and he is as unaware of his surroundings as an artillery player in World of Tanks. And he is coming around the corner of an island with a destroyer on the other side of it, inside the criminally and pathetically and laughably short torpedo range of the USS Nicholas. I mean, you can tell that the Fusso was tunnel visioning. First, he came around a blind corner, right next to a cap circle that had just been flipped by the enemy team within the pathetic 5.5 kilometre torpedo range of a Nicholas. Secondly, he had armour piercing loaded, rather than high explosive, and he instantly unloaded the armour piercing against the Viribus Unitus down to the south, which meant he had nothing to defend himself with against the extremely obvious destroyer that had just flipped the cap circle on the other side of the island. And yet, despite that, despite the Fusso being effectively defenceless, look at the battering that Chris took. He lost half of his health in 20 seconds, and that was all from the Fusso secondaries. And the Fusso is not known for having impressive secondaries, because it doesn't. They're kind of shit. Hold on to that thought. We'll explore it more in a moment, because it's key to understanding how to actually make successful torpedo attacks in a mid-tier American destroyer like the Nicholas here, or the Farragut at tier 6 for that matter. Right now, however, Chris has other problems. Well, actually, I think it's probably fairer to say that the Shinonome has Chris problems. Because while it is a fantastic destroyer, it's not winning a gunfight with anybody, especially not anything American. And due to the course that Chris is sailing, if that thing's launched any torpedoes, they're going to hit the island before they hit him, which means that was an extremely easy second kill. I'm going to chalk that one down to yet more poor situational awareness. I mean, the Shinonome did not lose that gunfight because it's got shit guns with a slow reload, even though it does have shit guns with a slow reload. It lost that gunfight because none of the guns were pointing in Chris's direction when the Shinonome came out into open water from the other side of the island. And I have no idea why not, because who else was he expecting to be shooting at? But anyway, worry about that in the comments section. Right now, Chris has a submarine to sink. It's gone undetected, but, well, looks like the Viribus Unitus also has a fairly good idea where to find it. There he is. Yeah. Well, I suppose coming to the surface just makes it a bit easier for the crew to abandon ship. Oh, speaking of the Viribus Unitus, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to chat, but if you have, you will probably already be aware, and I say this with apologies to cockholsters everywhere, but the Viribus Unitus is a bit of a cockholster. I'm not quite sure what the friendly La Galissoniere did to upset him, but the Viribus Unitus is not being shy in calling him out for it. And he also appears to have a bit of a problem with a stuck caps lock key on his keyboard. It's surprisingly common. I don't know what's going on with keyboard manufacturers these days. You'd think they'd look into it. But anyway, I don't even know what his exact problem was with the La Galissoniere. He was calling him an idiot, and I mean, I don't know, maybe he is an idiot. It's certainly possible. He does end this battle with 245 experience, which is pretty bad. But that doesn't mean he's an idiot, it just means he's had a bad game. I mean, I've entered battles with 245 XP, but I'm... Okay, bad example. But you get the point. But he's not only going to get upset at the La Galissoniere, he's also going to get very upset with... Well, at first I thought Chris here. But it turns out the other destroyer on the team, the Fubuki. And again, I don't know why. I think it was something to do with spotting. Or going to be something to do with spotting, because it hasn't actually happened yet. And I'll try to point it out when it happens, but... I'm old and crap and I might forget about it, so keep an eye on the chat window. Ah, yes, here we go, mentioned this earlier. Despite what, on paper at least, appeared to be a textbook US destroyer torpedo attack on a completely oblivious battleship, which did succeed, Chris lost half of his health in the process. Now, under the circumstances, I'm going to say, taking out a top-tier enemy battleship that early in the battle, totally worth it. Under normal circumstances, however, and especially when you've only got half of your hit points left, it is way, way safer to do what he's doing here. And although this isn't actually going to work, because the S1 finishes off the New York, before the New York could blunder into the arc of fire of Chris's torpedoes, you see what he was doing there was just waiting to get the torpedoes off as the enemy battleship approached from the blind side of the island without ever getting himself spotted and shot at in the process. Because you're aiming ahead of where it's going to be, so you can keep the island at all times between you and him. It does, however, require somebody else to be spotting the target for you. And it does also require a handy island for you to hide behind. But if, push comes to shove, you can always make your own island by popping a smoke screen. Also, of course, requires somebody else to be spotting the target for you, or for you to have hydro, and hope that they don't. Notice, by the way, just how potent the Nicholas's 5-inch armour piercing is against a light cruiser. Hold on to that thought too, because that's not the only enemy cruiser remaining, and you ain't seen nothing yet. And he's switched from working over the Königsberg because it's about to get sunk by, oh, S1 torpedoes. Well, that's a flesh wound award for the friendly S1, which I suppose is something of a consolation prize because he just got sunk by the enemy S1. Now, with everybody capable of doing it smoking up like this, we have, for at least the next couple of seconds, a bit of a spotting problem. And there it is in chat. There's the Viribus Unitus, once again, outing himself as a bit of a cockholster. He's just screaming, report! Not report who, not report why, just report! Well, as Chris is nuking down the enemy Farragut, getting himself his 4th kill, I'm sure he, because I was thinking, is he talking about me? He's there again in chat. He's still got a broken caps lock key. Spot! Curva! Turns out he's talking about the friendly Fubuki. And again, if you have a look at the mini-map, you can kind of understand why. I mean, seriously. What's he doing down there? Again, though, not Chris's problem. This is Chris's problem. And I don't think I've seen a narrower torpedo squeak this year. So, fortunately, dodged that. And even though he can't see the enemy submarine, because, you know, it's a submarine, he can track the direction that the oil slick is going. They stand a pretty good chance of landing these depth charges. Wait, what was... Okay, 2 surprising things here. First, none of the depth charges hit anything. The submarine zagged when he was expecting it to zig. The other surprising thing, what exactly does the friendly carrier think is going to happen with those torpedoes? It's not just me, right? I mean, I know that technically they're subsurface weapons, but they don't work like that. Well, anyway, more dramas unfurling down to the southwest. If you look, there it is. The enemy Almirante Cochrane. Definitely not Chris's problem. That responsibility lies at the hands of... Well, the Fubuki might have been able to help if he hadn't been shamed into heading up further north, so it's 100% the Viribus Unitus's problem. And to be fair, the Almirante Cochrane is a good cruiser, but the Viribus Unitus is a very, very good battleship, and it's, you know, battleship versus cruiser, so my money's not on the cruiser. S1 just got respotted, and he commits a fatal error of judgment, zagging when he should have been zigging, running himself into the island, missing with his torpedoes, and completely ruining any chance whatsoever he had of going undetected here. Yeah, you really didn't think that one through, did you, Sunshine? And yet he's taken a surprising amount of shots before he actually dies. Oh, he is going to die. Yeah, don't worry about that. In fact, there he goes, and there's the Kraken unleashed. Speaking of somebody who's taken a surprising amount of time to die, that Almirante Cochrane is still afloat. And can I just point out, by the way, that this is the first time that enemy light cruiser has been spotted since he sank the friendly Tiger all the way up there to the northwest in Cap Circle Alpha. 2 minutes into the start of the battle, we have seen neither hide nor hair of the Almirante Cochrane since 2 minutes into the start of the battle. What the fuck has he been doing in the meantime? Getting his nails done? Doing a bit of shopping on Amazon? What? I don't get it. It's not like he's a slow cruiser either. Speaking of useless, look at where the enemy torpedo bombers are coming from. Coincidentally, the exact same direction that the enemy dive bombers that missed Chris while he was finishing off the S1, the exact same direction they came from, and look at where the friendly carrier is sending his scout planes. Literally no use to the team alive. Now, you remember earlier I was talking about how surprisingly potent the Nicholas's 5-inch armour piercing shells were against light cruisers? Fubuki, you can turn your AA guns on now, by the way. I mean, I know they're mostly useless, but so are Chris's, and every little helps. Oh, this is classic. The enemy Ryujo. Look, if there's a worst possible angle to drop torpedoes from against a destroyer, this is it. See if you can guess why. There he is. But anyway, honestly. While the friendly carrier, the USS Independence, was originally built as a light cruiser, it was a Cleveland, and then converted to an aircraft carrier. The Japanese Ryujo here was always designed from the start as a light carrier. But it still kind of has a light cruiser hull with a flight deck on top, just like the Independence. Have a look, once he's got the broadside to shoot at, have a look at just how good this 5-inch armour piercing is against a suitable target. He's going to want to switch around about now. He's queuing up the torpedoes here, I think just in case the fire or the secondaries from the Ryujo kill him, but look at the damage! Honestly, the torpedoes were surplus to requirements. When you see the damage that this 5-inch armour piercing does to a light cruiser hull, holy shit. That was 15 citadels in like 10 seconds. I knew there was a reason I liked the Nicholas. Well, anyway. I mean, what can I say? 6 kills, Confederate, devastating strike, Kraken Unleashed, you name it. 2,700 base XP. I believe you answered your critics there, Chris. Good job. And I hope you all enjoyed watching him do it. And now that I've completed my duty for the day, with this fever still raging, I think I'm going to retire to bed and just sweat quietly for a couple of hours. And on that image, permanently taking up space in your brains rent-free, I think I'll bid you all a fond farewell. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.